All right, let's dive straight into this explainer. Today, we're unpacking a massive shift: how to finally escape that exhausting trap of being a busy, low-income remote worker and step into being a highly paid strategic professional. I want to start by asking a super relatable question that honestly plagues so many of us in the remote work world. Are you always working, but somehow never earning enough? If you're not in your head right now, trust me, you're definitely not alone in this. You know that feeling? Writers like Praja Priyadarshani and John Aguosi perfectly describe this incredibly uncomfortable pressure. It's that need to just remain constantly available, practically eating lunch hunched over your keyboard. Remote work was supposed to give us freedom, but for a lot of folks, it just totally erased the boundaries between life and the office, leaving us feeling isolated and stuck, having to always be on. And Okuos's realization about this is really our anchor today. He looked at his life as a struggling, low-income freelancer and realized his calendar was totally packed, but his energy, and more importantly, his bank account, were just completely empty. He said it felt like running on a treadmill that made a lot of noise, but he wasn't actually getting anywhere. So let's look at part one: the remote work treadmill, action without progress. If we're being completely honest with ourselves, we've probably all felt the symptoms of this busy trap, conflating just being busy with actually producing value. Your laptop is basically always open, you're constantly responding to pinging notifications just to prove you're at your desk, and out of sheer panic, you end up grabbing these low-paying, exhausting gigs just to keep the momentum going. You get locked into this low-income cycle where you're working based on your mood and your anxiety instead of a real strategic plan. Which leads us to part two: action versus actual results, unclogging the machine. Joe Procopio brings up a really fascinating insight here about the hidden killer of remote productivity. It's all about how we define what we're actually doing all day. He noticed that in remote teams, especially the ones that just kind of transitioned quickly without much of a plan, all the effort goes into mere action, but none of that action produces actual results. Think about it. Action is just movement, right? Answering a Slack message, shuffling a spreadsheet around, hopping on a quick call. But results are actual production. It's forward progress. Without that, the whole machine just gets clogged with pointless movement. And this next stat perfectly illustrates how even massive, highly sophisticated companies completely get this wrong, prioritizing physical action over real results. 38%. Thrall Alaverdevier points out how wild this is. 38% of workers share an office with 20% or less of their actual team. I mean, think about the absolute absurdity of forced return to office mandates, where people commute for hours, literally just to sit at a desk and take virtual meetings. It proves that just mimicking physical action doesn't equal strategic work. It's purely performative. So, section 3, biology over rigid schedules, escaping the factory mindset. We desperately need a paradigm shift here, and remote work veteran Jerry Detweiler figured this out through flexible scheduling. We basically have to ditch the factory floor mentality altogether. Detweiler realized the biggest productivity hack isn't just grinding out more hours. It's actually working with your biology instead of fighting against it. So she flipped her schedule. She worked across different time zones, spent her mornings exploring, and did her deep work in the evening when her focus naturally peaked. Because honestly, the traditional 9 to 5 was built for factory lines. It was made for physical offices where your body had to literally be present to operate the machines. But for a modern knowledge worker, tying yourself to a random clock instead of your natural energy, that completely caps your earning potential and pretty much guarantees you're going to burn out. And there's hard science backing this up. Researchers at Aachen University literally looked at brain scans, proving that we all have unique genetic peak performance times. A specific genetic variant actually dictates your natural sleep-wake cycle. So when you align your heaviest, most intense cognitive tasks with your natural energy peaks, you maximize your efficiency. You get way more done and the quality is better simply because you aren't fighting your own body. Moving on to section 4, the strategic routine shift, systems over motivation. Armed with this biological knowledge, let's look at what John Okwuse actually did to overhaul his workday. He built a 3-part system that completely took fleeting motivation and last-minute panic out of the equation. This is how he stopped being a low-paid, busy worker and became a high-value strategist. First, fixed hours with absolutely zero multitasking. Second, specific targets that focused purely on outcomes. And third, and this is a big one, strict start and stop times. He stopped pretending to be productive all day and put up some real boundaries. This right here is the ultimate pivot, moving from a struggling freelancer to a premium professional. He ditched the reactive routine, waking up, begging for gigs on crowded job boards, and just waiting around. Instead, he built what we call a positioning routine. He started sharing his knowledge, writing posts that really showcased his expertise, and let the opportunities come to him. He went from begging for work to strategically positioning himself so the high-paying clients naturally found him. Bringing us to our final section, number 5. From busy to valuable. Less action, better outcomes. As we wrap up this explainer, we really need to redefine what your time is actually worth. Okwose realized that hard work without direction is literally like shouting into the wind. Sure, it feels loud, but it doesn't actually move anything. Once he filtered out those low-value jobs and stopped shouting into the wind, his consistent, targeted effort quietly started to double his earnings. Same laptop, same internet connection, but doing less action with way more direction completely transformed his bank account.
Because at the end of the day, let's just say it, you do not get paid for being busy. You get paid for being valuable. The modern remote economy does not reward blind effort like a traditional factory job does. Being totally exhausted at 6 p.m. isn't a badge of honor if you didn't actually move the needle. Value is all about how intentional your routine is, how fiercely you protect your natural energy, and how effectively you present your expertise to the world. It's about systematically leveraging your skills, not just keeping your laptop open for 12 hours straight.
So I'll leave you with this final thought. If you're being truly honest with yourself right now, taking a hard look at your own calendar and your daily habits, what specific habit do you need to break today to become the strategic professional you're meant to be? Are you just making a lot of noise on the treadmill, or are you actually moving forward?